Hi, my name's Jonathan Hicks, and this evening I'm joined by...
I'm not a crook.
That's Steve. And we've just finished playing the two-player game, Watergate, which is about the Nixon scandal, crisis, whatever they called it. And essentially one player is playing Nixon here, and the other player is playing the editor, who is trying to effectively piece together all the various bits of evidence. This is like the Watergate investigation. This is piecing together the evidence to try and connect Nixon to key people who can expose him. So the editor is trying to get, for instance, James McCord here, and you can see we've connected with bits of evidence here, a track. Now, what's important is the kind of background colours. So these blue tokens are going to be placed on blue. If it's mixed like that, it can go on either colour. So this has been placed effectively on a yellow one. So as the editor, I am trying to connect Nixon to two of these people on the outside. But Nixon is obviously trying to block me, and it's possible for him to place these evidence tokens. This has to go on a green one, but it goes face down, which means I can't then connect through to Rosemary Woods in this case. In terms of how you play the game, though, you have cards. You have a hand of these cards, and it's very similar to Twilight Struggle in many ways, if you're familiar with that. It's kind of multi-use cards, and essentially when you play a card, you're either playing it for the number at the top left, which can be used to move some tokens, or there's going to be some kind of event. So, for example, if I wanted to play a card for the number, there's three things effectively that I can move. I can either move tokens. Now, there's like a tug of war track in the middle here. The momentum token is very important because that's how the red one, that's how Nixon wins the game. If he manages to, well, perhaps I should say, we move these around by playing cards. So maybe at the end of the round, these pieces end up in these various positions like this. If it's on your side, then you win that token. So at the end of the round, Steve would get that, and that adds to his momentum. And if Steve ever gets 5 momentum tokens like that, he just wins the game instantly. So that's what he's trying to do. He's just trying to get the momentum token. If the initiative token is on your side, though, then you win the initiative. Now that's important because the person who has the initiative gets to play 5 cards every round, whereas the person who doesn't have the initiative only gets 4 cards. And not only that, the person with the initiative token goes first. So trying to get the white token is also quite important. So I could play this card, for example, as a 2 to move one of the tokens. So, if this was still back on the board, I could move it kind of 1-2 spaces, or I might decide I really want to go first, and so I could try and move this 2 spaces, so it's very hard for Steve to get it back. So you can move the tokens. Then you've got the evidence. Now this is the stuff that's on the board, but these are face down at the start. Steve knows what these are because he kind of draws them out of the bag and then looks at what they are. But I could only use this card to move a green one. So I say to Steve, is there a green one?
Yes.
And he has to reveal which one it is. If there's a choice, he can choose which one it's going to be. He reveals this one, and it would move 2 spaces towards my direction. So that's one thing you can do when you play the card. You're either moving the evidence things or the token. Again, at the end of the round, if I get this evidence, I get to pin it on the board, either on a blue space or a green space, face up to try and connect Nixon to the various people around the outside. Other cards you've got, though, for example, this John Dean, you need to be able to kind of reveal the people. At the start of the game, these people are not on the board. Yeah, you see there are spaces. Butterfield, who's this? Where is he? And I would need to have a matching card. Oh, here's one. So Hugh Sloan, for example, has not gone on the board yet. So I could play this for the event, and then we take Hugh Sloan, stick him on his appropriate space. And now if I manage to connect these 2, then I've connected him. So again, I win the game if I connect Nixon to 2 of these people around the outside. But this one, notice when you play this card, you remove this card from the game. So now this kind of 3 movement for a blue or a token, I'm never going to get to use that again. It's just gone. There are also kind of journalists who are like events that you can sort of keep using over and over again. They don't get removed from the game. This lets me draw an evidence token from the bag and stick it face up on the 2 space of my side. So I kind of get a random one, and oh, that's blue. That's going to be helpful. I'm going to use that to connect Hugh Sloan. That's excellent. So you kind of play that. And then on the research track, move either the initiative token or the momentum token 2 spaces. So I'd be like, oh yes, I want to get the momentum token. I can move this 2 spaces. Incidentally, if I win it, it goes on here and it kind of unlocks special ability. So if I were to manage to get it for this round, I could remove a face down evidence token and stick it back in the bag. So one of these ones that's blocking a route, I could remove it to free up a space and stick it back in the bag. So essentially, you just keep playing tug of war like this, trying to grab the bits, put the evidence on the board. Obviously, the Nixon player is trying to block the various directions I'm going. And then it's just the first person to either get the 5 momentum tokens if Nixon does that, he wins, or for the editor, as me as if you like, trying to connect 2 of these people around the edge. What do you think?
I know of it, but not well enough to know how thematic this game is. So if you are wanting to check your thematic ties to see if this is a game for you, I'd probably look at or listen to Jonathan or something. Maybe he'll tell you better. As a game and as a fan of Twilight Struggle, I think it's very good. I think it plays in a way shorter of time. Your decisions on your turn, you've got 5 things that you're doing. You've not got that dilemma of this card is bad for me. So in Twilight Struggle, you've got a card that you want the points for, but you don't want to play the event, that sort of thing. Here, all the cards in your deck are good for you, all the cards in your opponent's deck are good for them. And you've got this, you're fighting on like 4 different fronts. You're fighting on the board, the evidence tokens, the red token, and the white token. The white token seems like the most inoffensive. It doesn't actually get you close to winning the game, but it gets you 5 cards. It gets you to go first. It gets you to go last as well. Going last is good because you can play your last card knowing your opponent can't react to it, and you can maybe swing that one from slightly on their side to slightly on your side. You've also got the opportunity, this deck kind of destroys some of the evidence and some of the people, and you can maybe find some dirt on them and make them run away and hide or something and take them off the board. And if you do that early, it forces your opponent to potentially get their last bits out. But the cards that destroy the people and the cards that get the people onto the board, they're kind of like how you stop the other person winning or they win the game. They're the ones with the big numbers. So if you get those people on the boards early, you take those cards out of your deck. And now, if your opponent's played more of those cards and lost them to the discard pile, not the discard pile, the pile out of the game. They're less efficient in moving their things. So I played a few of my furs early, and in one round I drew all 1s and 2s. I was like, well, it's fine if I want to play them for the ability, but if I want to play them for the tug of war point of view, my opponent's going to have much higher numbers than I am, and they're going to be able to move it back. Yeah, it's really good. It felt really close for most of the game. It felt like decisions were interesting at any point. I was close to winning twice, and Jonathan unconsciously stopped me. He didn't quite know what he was stopping, but he did it. He kind of did it, and I didn't have enough stuff in my hand. I needed to play this card for the event to get rid of something, and I also needed to move the evidence that he just took and back into my half, and I couldn't do both. So I've only played one game of it. Really like it. There is some theme there, but I'm not sure how much.
Okay. Oh, rating?
Oh, yeah, 8.
Okay. Yeah, I played this quite a lot actually, and from a thematic point of view, I don't know. I played Twilight Struggle a lot, and that one feels really thematic. And you read through all the cards, and I really get a sense of the history. It might help that I know about the Cold War a bit more than I do the Watergate scandal. But this one, although they've put plenty of kind of background history in the rulebook, which is quite nicely done, it feels more abstracted, this one. I don't really feel like I'm discovering about particular people. I'm just pinning coloured tokens on a board. But the actual game is really, really good. And if you want a kind of distilled, shorter version of Twilight Struggle, it does it really, really well. The whole tug of war that you feel in Twilight Struggle, you feel this all the way through. There's some very tricky decisions. Knowing what to fight for, are you better getting the initiative? As Steve says, that really helps. But you really need those momentum tokens because it's a win condition for one of the players. And those abilities, if you get it or as the editor, they really help you. So there's a lot to think about. Trying to work out how early to give your game away. Like if you rush and stick several evidence tokens all out to one person and then your opponent just blocks them by putting them face down, as it were, then you're like, oh, I spent all that time getting all that out and it was for nothing. So that's really interesting. There are some cards like Twilight Struggle, you really need to know they're in the game, otherwise you're not going to do very well. So there are cards that will, for instance, remove opponents' cards from the game, or just completely end the round. It's like you get to play the card, you get to do something that's good for you, and then the round ends. So it's like, what? I didn't get to play any of my cards. So knowing that those are in there are going to be quite helpful. So once you've played it a couple of times, there aren't that many cards in the game, it's fine, and you'll know all the cards. So it's a great implementation of, as I say, like a streamlined, shorter version of Twilight Struggle. If you are interested in that, it's fantastic. Thematically, I could take it or leave it, but the game itself is really, really good. I would also be on an 8 out of 10. All right, thanks for watching. That was Watergate.